Hi, my name is Sam Kostrinsky. I'm one of the original NOG organizers since 2013 and also the program committee chair. I've been at the NANOG program committee since 2018 and various committees within OpenIX. I have over 18 years of network industry experience, and currently I'm the senior director at Oracle.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vince Cilindro. Sure you've all seen me. I'm currently on the board of directors for NANOG, as well as I've been on the program committee serving as chair, vice chair, and also on the NOG program committee there with Tom. Been around a bit, have worked over at Northwestern University as an operator, spent different roles over at Juniper as a engineer, had a stint over at Dell, and then currently back at Juniper as a senior account manager. So, you know, you're at NANOG, so what you probably beg the question, why start a NOG? If you weren't aware, there are quite a few local NOGs in North America. There's NOG, NVNOG, BOSNOG, NINOG. That's Chicago, Nevada, Boston, New York, just to name a few. I know that there's other out there, and if you want to give a shout out to your NOG, please put the name in the chat window wherever it is on your screen there. There are many reasons why these local NOGs exist. If you ever thought of starting a NOG, this presentation aims to encourage you to pursue forming that local NOG, reasons, benefits to your local community, and help you with that process. All right, let's get started. We'll begin with the reasons to start a NOG, as well as the flip side, why not to start a NOG. We'll define a NOG, go through who should start a NOG. Then I'll hand it over back to Tom, who will talk about how he started NOG. He'll give you pointers on where to start, build local community, tips on how to hold that first community meeting, and then followed up by different growing phases of NOGs. And finally, the NOG blueprint. So if we were in person, I'd ask, raise of hands, or again, put it in that chat. How many of you, is this your first time attending NANOG? How about first time to any NOG? This is about the first time, or think about the first time you participated in an event like this in person. What were your reasons? Was it purely to learn from each other? Was it to watch a speaker present on best practices, lessons learned, or perhaps a new technology or upcoming trend? Or were you invited to give a talk, share something that you have some expertise in? Was it to interact with other like-minded people in the networking industry? Maybe look for a job, looking for a mentor, maybe to collaborate on a project or an idea. Informally learning real-world, unfiltered experiences from others. If you think back, though, to that first time, were you excited? Maybe traveling to that conference, excited to meet lots of new people, new faces? Or while being excited, did you have a slight feeling of intimidation? Some angst maybe mixed in. You had to get on a plane to travel to the conference. Tired by the time you got there. Lots of people, new faces. Maybe didn't really know anyone there. What's great about local NOGs are that you can define your own community. I'll be referencing it as local NOGs since there's a lot to be said about geography or locality. As we saw earlier, there are a few NOGs based upon large metro cities. But that doesn't mean you can't start a NOG based upon, I'll call it a specialty or vertical, such as CDNs, cloud, maybe utilities, oil and gas, gaming, enterprise. You can start a NOG based upon any shared commonality. Going back to that first NOG experience, and I can only speak for myself, but I fell into the latter, excited with some intimidation mixed in. That is why local NOGs make sense. Usually they are smaller in size, more intimate, and there is a bit more focus, either by the vertical or just by the nature of the location. And you'll see what I mean about this in a bit. Being geographically closer also means probably not getting on a plane, maybe a short drive to attend the local NOG. It's much easier for us to connect when we are geographically closer. One thing we've talked about at NANOG is the NNP, Next Networking Professional. But look back when you first started. Maybe you're just starting out now. Put yourself into that junior engineer shoes, or perhaps someone who's not a network engineer and just has interest or is interested in becoming that NNP. Again, think of why you wanted to attend a NOG. Then think of when you had to ask whomever's approval to attend the event. What questions were asked? What were your justifications? Well, how much is it? Where is it at? How much is the airfare? Hotel? Rental car? How long will you be out of the office? The whole week? These were some of the barriers that I know I and others had to overcome, but not everyone got approval. How about if the narrative changed and your responses were the following? Oh, I'll be gone just one day or just the afternoon, and it's just a short drive. Would asking and getting approval be much easier then? Being local helps remove travel as barriers to attend and opens the doors for many others to join that community. While you may not be an NNP, maybe mid-career or looking to change fields, whatever stage you are in, NOGs are a great way to find a mentor or be a mentor, grow and collaborate. Also, while this may not be the case 100% of the time, but being local and having a more intimate group makes it much easier to talk to everyone attending, while also being able to introduce oneself and not feel like a total outsider. How many times have you attended a conference and you finally saw someone, but only on the last day, wishing more time to connect? How about when individuals are meeting the first time and introducing themselves? What's a common question? It's, where are you from? And why is that? It's because as humans, we want connections. We ask this so that we can make personal connection. Oh, I've been there. It's a great city. Beautiful during the summer. Or that's one place I'd like to visit. When you narrow down the geography, this probability or commonality goes up. The conversation then turns to, oh, there's a great restaurant at the corner of X and Y. Have you been there? Maybe we should go grab brunch or something. This is that sense of local community. And geography isn't the only reason, but usually a strong one to create a NOG around. One of the main reasons for a NOG is to build the people-to-people social network, the face-to-face network. Look someone in the eye and have a conversation network. And locality does help in that regard. One of the positive side effects, given COVID and the events of the past year, NANOG and others shifted events to be virtual. We've seen that this opened the door to a wider range of attendees that wasn't possible before. These attendees always wanted to attend NANOG, but couldn't, just due to travel and budget constraints. Now, that's a great thing, but I think one thing that all these virtual conferences have in common, and I've heard this from several attendees at various conferences, is they want that in-person feeling. And really, nothing at the moment beats being live and in person, face-to-face. So we've gone through just a few reasons of why to start a NOG, but let's take a moment on reasons not to start a NOG. Monetary. If you look at successful NOGs, they are non-for-profit. If your goal is to make money by holding NOG events, just don't. You're doing it for the wrong reasons and not in the spirit of helping others, forming a community. Promoting or marketing content, we're hit all day long with marketing, unsolicited calls. If I wanted to attend another marketing pitch, I'll just go ask my vendor to give it to me. We want to listen to technical content. We want to hear unfiltered experiences from attendees, the good, bad, and ugly. People will see that you're trying to gain something versus building something. Now, short story here, it was NANOG 77. I just happened to sit next to a first-time attendee. I believe it was during the opening session. I had asked, I see this is your first time attending NANOG, and I had introduced myself, and at the time I was the vice chair of the program committee. I went on to ask, you work for a large oil field services company. That's not the typical company we see in attendance here at NANOG. Can I ask what interested you and what brings you to NANOG? And I'm paraphrasing this, but the answer was short and sweet. I'm looking for a non-vendor specific technical conference where I can learn from the presenters about technology and talk with other network engineers that have real world experiences without all the marketing or being one-sided. NANOG is the closest I've found to that. We've gone through the reasons why and why not to start a NOG, but we've never really defined it. When Tom and I were putting this presentation together, we never intended to put a definition slide in. This was actually a last-minute addition. But when you compare this definition coming from Wikipedia to the why start a NOG we went through earlier, you'll see much of the same core tenets and principles highlighted. Country-based or regional, mutual interest, networking, profession, and others. Those whose jobs are network engineers, and I wouldn't restrict it to not only those in the research and technical communities, think about those that are just looking to get into the field, the next networking professional. Basically, anyone who has an interest in networking and related technologies. Update each other on their work, share news and updates, exchange best practices, discuss new technologies or protocols, teach and learn from others, network with other members of the community, and discuss current network and internet-related issues and challenges. So we spoke of the why and what. Now it's who should start a NOG. If we were all in person, I would say, look to your left, then look to the right, then get out your phone, take a selfie, because everyone here should be looking to themselves first. Looking into the mirror to start or at least participate, contribute to a local NOG. You are all here, part of the NANOG community. But think about your local community. Again, let's start with geographic locality region. As we talked about, is probably the easiest to begin with. But we also said a NOG could be any commonality, maybe a vertical, service provider, enterprise, gaming, finance, utilities, oil and gas, CDN. These are just a few. There's plenty more out there. Each one of these communities has a specific requirement, specific issues and challenges that are unique to their own vertical. Enterprises deal with campus access, connecting campuses, Wi-Fi, mobility, and over the past year dealing with work from home. Gaming, what comes to mind? Low latency, scaling on demand, finance, and high frequency trading. That's another low latency requirement. CDNs, quickest path to data, reducing redundant traffic, again, scaling on demand. Oil and gas, energy, industrial requirements. Just to name a few, and let's not forget security covers or encompasses, crosses all these verticals. So while there are some unique challenges within each vertical, if we were to build a Venn diagram of sorts, you'd see that there would be a good overlap, common problems that span all. It would be a good idea to get diversity within a NOG so that others can see how they have solved the same problem, why they took the path they did, and get a different viewpoint. Avoid group mind thinking. We've seen it with spine and leaf in the data center, migrating to EVP and VXLAN into the campus as well into distributed router models. Another reason to start with local NOGs, take for example, NYC, Chi, LA. I mean, these are financial hubs, right? But if you look at these locations, they're also big enterprises, then service providers, IXPs, due to connection requirements. Usually you'll also find cloud companies and CDNs in these colos. I take those cities for example, but that model where there's the intermixing of various networks together is basically ubiquitous at this point, right? And if it's not, it's going to be. But I digress. Back to the topic. Who should start a NOG? If you were to search for a local NOG on the internet or a NOG specific to a vertical and can't find one, then you should consider starting one. Again, our goal is to help enable you to start a NOG. I encourage you to think about it, and if worst case, participate in your local NOG. I'm going to turn it now over to my good friend Tom, where he'll talk about how he started and grew ShyNOG.
Thank you, Vince. Next, we'd like to talk about a use case of Chicago Network Operators Group and share with you our experiences. It was started over 9 years ago in 2013. Now, who started? Back then, it was Brian McGann, Jason Kraft, and me that started. Now, how did the idea come about? Basically, we met at one of Brian's classes he was teaching and realized we have a nice local community in Chicago. We didn't even know we all lived in the same city. So we wanted to start something and talk about what we can do to bring the community together. Next, I would like to take you through the growth and what we did over the years as an example, as a use case example. ShyNOG 1, we started in 2013. That was just an informal meeting. It was more of a get to know others in the community. We had no speakers or any content. We wanted to get the feedback on the direction of the group and see if there was any interest. Then we had ShyNOG 2. That was our first meeting with an actual speaker. It was a meetup type of an event, and that's what started building the community with more people attending. We had about 16 or so. Then we had ShyNOG 3. That was our second event in 2014. First time we had 3 speakers, and our attendance doubled, and that momentum started building. We partnered with a new IXP being launched in Chicago at that time as well. There were some lessons we learned from the event. Date selection is critical. We scheduled it on a Father's Day weekend, also a weekend, and it was harder for everyone to attend during the week. We also learned that we have to ensure there's some nominal registration fee. We had a lot of people that registered that didn't show up, so some nominal fee was kind of required to have better attendance. Timing and schedule is important. Our speaker went a lot longer, and we literally had university security guards standing outside the door to kick us out and close the building. Then we had ShyNOG 4, our third event in 2013. We also had 3 speakers. This was with an official sponsor launching their Chicago IXP. It was the first time we also did T-shirts, so that helped as well. There was another lesson learned on the date selection. Make sure you don't schedule your event close to your son's birth. We had some false alarms, but the baby came 6 days after the event. So ShyNOG 5 was the first event. We went to a full day format. Our speakers grew to 14. We maxed out the room capacity and closed down the registration early on with 125 people. After this one, we realized we had to find a venue that could accommodate a much larger crowd. Scheduling date was a lot better this time. We followed another big conference in town, ITW, with our event that brought a good number of visitors and sponsors. We had our share of challenges over the years, which were definitely building the momentum, which I'll talk more about later, getting the funding to cover the costs, and finding the venues to fit everyone. I'll touch up on these in the future slides. COVID-19 also had a big impact on us. We canceled ShyNOG 10 in 2020, and we weren't able to do a virtual event yet, but we're planning to be back next year. So what do we currently do every year? So we have a 1 annual event. Doing multiple per year seemed too often, especially with the time it takes to plan it. Our attendance has settled around 200 attendees, give or take. Usually we shoot for 16 speakers doing 30-minute presentations. In the afternoon, we usually have 2 tracks. To support the event, we have about 11 sponsors of varying levels from diamond, gold, and silver. Sponsorship break even the cost of the event. Our content is vendor neutral. We're pretty strict about the selection and adhering to it. And I have to apologize to some of our speakers in the past over the years, pushing back on that point, making sure there's isn't a lot of logos or marketing content in there. Usually every event starts with a general program with presentations and ends with a social gathering that we have. All of our sessions are recorded and posted on YouTube. Now, how are we organized? So currently we have a program committee with 4 members. We have an executive role that does the funding, sponsorship contracts, and social media. We also have an event management company that helps us with the venue and speaker management. Next, I want to show a few pictures of our events. You can kind of see the growth throughout the year, starting from the second one, where it's a small group, all the way to the 8th one, and you can see the growth of it throughout the years. So if you want to start a NOG, where do you start? What does it take to start one? It doesn't really take too much to get started. Initially, you'll need 2 to 3 dedicated organizers. Doing it alone is very hard, so try to find some driven coworkers or friends. Next, what you want to do is schedule the first planning meeting for organizers. This is a very informal meeting just for the organizers to set up things like group name and all these different next steps we'll talk about. During this meeting, you want to establish a couple of key principles to follow. Present vendor-neutral content. This was a very important principle to us. You want to make sure that the talks aren't just another marketing presentations, like you try to sell something. Also, seek to educate rather than market products. This will go a long way to build the reputation of the organization. Next, set up some online presence. For example, have a WordPress site where you can place all the information, latest information for everyone to check. Have a Twitter handle. Make sure you use that to communicate all the news. LinkedIn group. That's probably one of your best sources to find community members. And we'll talk about that next. Also, YouTube channel to post your presentations. Slack. So you can use Slack to keep in touch outside of the events, but also during the conference to ask speaker questions, discuss content, and kind of have things offline. Next, you want to start building a local community, spreading the word of the group, which we'll cover next. So how do you actually go about building a local community? So this is the majority of the groundwork for the organizers. Until you build a good momentum, this is what most organizers will be doing. You'll want to ask coworkers, former colleagues, and use your social network. You want to seek out people via social media, professional websites to invite them to the meetings. For example, I would look up people that were network engineers or as a title had certain certifications such as CCIEs, send them invites to our events. Some will get ignored, some will gain traction. Also, to help you, you can also get help from already established national organizations. This is where groups like NANOG, NOG might be able to help, and we'll talk more about that. You also want to announce your events on mailing lists. You'll want to announce, save the date when you're having the event, call for speakers, what you're looking for, what type of speakers. Also, once you have the agenda and any details on the date and location. Also, once you get to the point of having sponsors, also help them, ask them for help advertising events. It brings them benefit to obviously have more people attend as well. And they might be able to send messages to their local contacts within the region, also post on their social media. You might also want to search based on technical certification or professional titles. So you might be searching for network engineers, CCIEs, JNCIEs, network architects, or other titles. And LinkedIn was a great tool for that. You want to reach out to local universities. They might have an alumni group. Professors could keep in touch with graduates, invite students to get them interested in the industry as well. And building the local community is one of the hardest parts of organizing a local NOG, but in the end, it's the most rewarding. It will take creativity, but will slowly grow and build momentum, becoming easier throughout each event. Next, you'll want to organize the first community meeting. The first community meeting, basically just to get started and announce the group. It's very informal, usually small group, 10 people or so. Meet and greet everyone that's interested. Get some feedback on the direction of the group and gather ideas. You might also brainstorm ideas on what to do the next meeting, like a watching party with videos of other conferences. You may also ask for speakers' ideas to present. The other thing, you'd want to get a good idea of the audience. Is this mostly an audience that works in service provider, enterprise, cloud industry? It's also a good place to ask for volunteers. And most importantly, don't forget to celebrate accomplishing the first step in starting the NOG, which is it is. Next, I'd like to quickly talk about some of the growing phases of a NOG. A NOG might follow these phases: a meetup phase, a full-day conference phase, a multi-day phase. Most NOGs will be successful in the meetup phase. So when you talk about a meetup phase, in terms of the content, you have about 3 presenters, live or recorded, with some dedicated networking time. Organizers will be doing most of the seeking out to get the presenters, and events are usually held during the weekday and the evenings after work. Meeting venue could be someone's office, conference room, university hall, or a library. Usually you're probably going to be around 20 to 40 attendees. Style is informal but structured, where you have some schedule. Costs, I mean, like beer, pizza, or something very small. You don't really need sponsors for this. And a frequency, you would want to do 3 times a year to kind of build that momentum. At this point, you could say mission accomplished. You have a NOG. If you get this far, that's all it takes. Now back to the use case of SHINOG. We had SHINOG 2, 3, and 4 in this meetup phase. And again, our goal was to build the momentum and grow the community. So next, you would move to the full day phase. This is where your content, you have 10 to 12 live speakers. You could do a single track or split the track. You still have organizers reaching out to speakers, but you can also rely a little bit more on call for presentations. Meeting venue, because it is a lot larger, you're talking about 50 to 200 people, you would need to start looking at hotel conference rooms. This is more formal and structured. You have specific time and schedule to follow. And the costs are significant, significantly more because of the venue. Also, food and beverages have significant costs as well. Room rental and AV. And you're talking about anywhere from 50 to 100,000 K. You definitely need sponsors at this point. You need to come up with packages to cover these costs. In terms of frequency, once a year, you can do it once a year since organizing is a lot of planning. You could outsource some of the event planning. And again, going back to SHINOG use case, SHINOG 05 was the first one that we went with a full day. We used a university conferencing center as our venue. Then we had to move to much bigger hotels. And then again, for a full day event, you might want to plan 8 months to a year in advance. When you NOG enters a more structured group, usually when doing a full day event, there are additional things you want to consider, such as having committees or a more dedicated volunteer for these responsibilities. And these are basically like a program committee, marketing, finance, budget, and sponsor development. So I won't read all that, but you could either have certain people, main organizers, take on these responsibilities, or you could have volunteers and slowly build committees for that. With a full day event, you need to consider a few things like having a separate business entity to handle the contract, taxes, and finances. So within the US, there are kind of 2 main options. One is setting up an LLC. The other one is a nonprofit. LLC is very quick to set up, not a lot of restrictions around it, but it does have tax implications. Nonprofit is a little bit harder to set up. Need to formalize the appointment of a board, but lesser tax implications for the organizers. Now, quick disclaimers, I'm definitely not giving you legal advice here. You have to be crazy to trust me on that one. You also need to consider funding, sponsorship packages. You'll need to come up with something. Basically, the per person cost goes up significantly. It could be anywhere from 150 to 250 for food and beverages. You would want to have the sponsors cover the majority of the event, where you develop different levels such as gold, diamond, and silver. You would want to define these sponsorship benefits clearly and ensure that there's a separation from the presented content. And then in terms of ticket sales, you want to make sure that the amount is big enough to ensure attendees actually show up when they register, but low enough for everyone to attend. So the next phase, the last phase, this is NOG will be in a multi-day event. This is what NANOG does. Again, in terms of content, it's multi-track. Meeting venue is a large hotel room where you have more than 200, 500, 1,000 attendees. Style, again, it's formal and structured. Everything's kind of on schedule. Cost a lot more than a single day event. Some of the other things you have to look at is room rental blocks, and you can talk about anywhere from $100,000 and more. Sponsors, yeah, you will need sponsors, but you'll need to raise a lot more, potentially 3 times more. Frequency, you could do it once a year, 3 times a year, but if you're doing it 3 times a year, you would need to hire staff or outsource it. So far we talked about why and how to start a NOG with the use case of how ShyNOG was started. Now we would like to announce what we're doing to help other NOGs get started on their own. We would like to pilot a NOG blueprint program. Objective is to help other organizers get started within their community. The goal is to provide a written blueprint for local organizers at the end of the pilot. We would like to provide experience and guidance, grow the networking community, reaching the local levels. For interested organizers, we would like to set up a meeting at the next in-person NANOG. We are also working with NANOG to see how we can collaborate. NANOG is committed and is investing in helping NOGs develop as one of their initiatives, and we're working through collaboration details with them. So basically, we are looking for community organizers who want to start their NOGs and join our pilot program. So if you're interested, email us, local-nog@shynog.org. In summary, we talked about reasons how to start a NOG and not to start a NOG. What is a NOG? Why and who should start one? We highlighted use case of ShyNOG, a local NOG. Then we talked about how do you get started? What do you do? How do you build that local community? How do you get started with the first meeting? And then what can you see as you grow through the meetup phase, full day phase, and multi-day phase? And lastly, we introduced our NOG Blueprint program.